Welcome into MASN All Access from the MASN Newsroom. I'm your host, Paul Mancano. Thank you so much for tuning in here on this Monday afternoon. Well, the Orioles got off to a roaring start this past weekend, but today it came to a grinding halt as tonight's game between the Orioles and Marlins at Marlins Park in Miami has been postponed. This comes after the news that 14 members of the Marlins traveling party has tested positive for COVID-19 in the past few days. Now, the Marlins were up at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia playing the Phillies this past weekend, and as such, tonight's game between the Phillies and Yankees has also been postponed. Here's the statement from MLB released this morning about the postponements. Tonight's scheduled games between the Miami Marlins and Baltimore Orioles at Marlins Park and the Philadelphia Phillies and New York Yankees at Citizens Bank Park have been postponed while Major League Baseball conducts additional COVID-19 testing. Members of the Marlins traveling party are self-quarantining in place while awaiting the outcome of those results. Major League Baseball has been coordinating with the Major League Baseball Players Association, the Marlins, the Orioles, Marlins weekend opponents, the Phillies, and club medical staff, and will continue to provide updates as appropriate. Now we bring on MASNsports.com's Steve Molesky to break down this news. And Steve, let's start with this. Where are the Orioles right now physically? We know that the Marlins were playing in Citizens Bank Park in Philly yesterday, and they have waited to go back to Florida, but did the Orioles arrive there ahead of them?
I believe they did, Paul, and that they're in their hotel in Miami now. We'll see if they stay there through tonight. You have to wonder if this game was canceled today, are they going to be able to resolve all this to play tomorrow night, or is this going to linger for a couple days? No one has those answers right yet, and I'm sure the Orioles are probably being told, hunker down in place for now, awaiting further instructions. And as we know, they were supposed to come back to Baltimore to play the same team. So maybe if they can resolve this quickly, fingers crossed for that, maybe they make up some games later this week. We'll see. None of this we know yet. It's all still obviously developing and emerging here.
Were you surprised at all when the news came down that this game was going to be postponed, given the news that 14 members of that Marlins traveling party had tested positive? And do you think it was the right decision to postpone tonight's game?
I think it was definitely the right decision. The first thing they have to do is see if they can get it under control in that team. And the Marlins, right before we started taping this, issued a statement where obviously they've had everybody tested again today, and they're awaiting results, which they think they'll get today. So they have to find out, of the remaining players who did not test positive, how are they doing and how can they go forward? 12 out of 30 is almost half your roster. So they've got to replace players. They've got to be allowed to have a full complement or close to it to play a game. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here. And, your thoughts go out to them. And then, Paul, you start to wonder, if these tests are coming out now, is it a result of something that happened a week ago? A week ago they were playing, I believe, the Braves in an exhibition. So did maybe this originated from the Braves who passed it to the Marlins? Who knows? There's a lot of, the tracing here maybe will be done, and they'll figure it out. But the right decision was made. You just can't play that game tonight. The Yankees, Phillies, it's the same thing. Can't play it. And so it looks like, as we speak, MLB will go on with the rest of the games. That seems to be the plan currently.
And if they do go on with the rest of the games, and even if the Orioles are to play tomorrow and finish out this series and then, of course, come back to Baltimore, how do you think they'll make up tonight's game? Do you think they'll have to schedule another trip or fit a game in a doubleheader format? How do you think they'll try to make up this postponement?
Well, I think plan A, MLB has always tried to make up all games. Even late in the year, if it's a non-contender, they just don't want – they want everybody to play 162, and in this case, 60. So that will be the goal. Whether they can actually achieve that is another matter. I saw one reporter today suggest that the likelihood of every team playing 60 games might be low because we might deal with this throughout the season. Again, let's hope we have a season and get to the end. And then maybe it might have to be winning percentage. You might have this team played 58, this played 56, this played 55. That's not ideal at all. We know that. It's just not what you really hope happens. But I think we have to consider that possibility exists.
Well, if that would be the case, at this point, the Orioles do have a positive winning percentage, so at least they have that going for them now. I mean, especially in the Orioles case, to have this happen at this point, obviously you think about players' health and safety first and foremost. But as well, with the competition on the field, if there's any kind of interruption in play, it did seem like the Orioles had a great weekend up in Boston. They were gaining some momentum. It did seem like the season was going to proceed as usual, or at least as planned, until this happened. It's a blow for everybody.
It's a blow. And I mean, Birdland was on a high going into Sunday night, right? Feeling, wow, nice back-to-back outings in Boston, have a winning record. They're tied for first in the AL East. Now they're playing a team that's supposedly on their level. Maybe they can roll off a few more wins. So, I mean, this was a real high for Oriole fans, and then the deflation of today's news. So, but if we go back to the weekend, very encouraging what Alex Cobb and Wade LeBlanc did. Very encouraging. And I think Tommy Malone might be a contributor before it's over. I mean, he pitched really well. And then all of a sudden, everything was in the middle of the plate, and the third inning went haywire. But all credit to Brandon Hyde, the coaches and the players. And, Paul, you and I saw this last year. They would have some downer games, some duds, and they would get right back on the horse and be riding again, man. And maybe not always winning, but playing cleaner ball, playing better ball. They never got down. Hard to do when you lose 108 times. I mean, that's the second most in the history of the team. So I credit those players for maintaining that upbeat energy. And it really wasn't totally surprising that it got better for them over the weekend. I didn't know if they were going to win any of those games, but I didn't think they were going to be pummeled 13-2 every night, because they weren't last year. So, really nice turnaround by the Orioles. It was impressive.
Yeah, and after Friday's game, I remember Brandon Hyde said, we want to flush this one, and they did that, coming back on Saturday with that resounding win and then getting a close win on Sunday. Exciting stuff all around. Well, Steve, we know that we can read your articles on MASNsports.com and follow you on Twitter at MASNSteve, but tell us about your postgame show on 105.7 The Fan coming back this year.
How about that? That was fun to do this weekend from the beautiful home studio here in Hartford County. I opened the blinds so I get a little light in, during the show. But it's on after the games, Paul, and I thank you for letting me mention it. The game broadcast will end about 35 minutes after the last out, and then we come on. Now, if it's a 7:30 game on a Friday night, you're taking air at like 11:30. You're hoping somebody's still awake. You're hoping you stay awake for the show. But, a lot of nights it'll be earlier, and it's about an hour, and we do take calls. We play some interviews from Orioles that we got pre and post game. And, I love talking to the fans on my blog, engaging them there. I love engaging them on the radio. And so I've done this show before at various times in my career, and I'm excited to do it now. And I think, we didn't get a ton of calls, but the ones we got, they're excited about what they're saying. And it's good. I think the fans have really understood the process that's going on here, and they're enjoying seeing guys get better. Hanser Alberto, look what he's done again. Rio, we knew in the second half he was starting to hit with more pop, right? 2 home runs already. So there's some things that could make this a fun summer. Fingers crossed for the health part.
Absolutely. Steve, thanks so much for hopping on. We can't wait to hear you back on the post-game show, and of course, following all of your articles on MASNsports.com. Thanks again.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, as mentioned, the Orioles' opening weekend went about as well as it could have, as the O's took 2 of 3 from the Red Sox up at Fenway Park. It started with a 13-2 loss at the hands of the Red Sox on Friday, but the O's flipped the script, outscoring the Red Sox 14-6 over the next 2 games. Brandon Hyde got stellar pitching performances from Alex Cobb and Wade LeBlanc in back-to-back days. And the bats exploded thanks to the likes of Jose Iglesias, Rio Ruiz, Anthony Santander, and Hanser Alberto. Here are some of the sights and sounds of a thrilling opening weekend up at Fenway Park.
That's where Severino set up. They got him. Yeah.
Hunter knows how to pitch. Really did a great job.
My stuff was great. I mean, it really was sharp.
I mean, everybody knows that I like guys that put the ball in play and force action, and we have some guys that can do that.
And the Birds got the bats going today. Goes Santander into the right field corner. That'll score at least 1. Nunez with a big swing. Drive way back and off the monster. That'll score 2. And Nunez with a head-first dive. He's safe at second.
Series wins are huge. Series wins are huge, and they'll carry you. Baseball's big. It's a big confidence game, and series wins are big, especially when you come into a place like this against a team like the Red Sox. It's definitely nice to get that first game out of the way, come back and show some resilience, and now it's on to Miami.
You just can't forget about the MASN All Access podcast. Brendan and I, on the most recent episode, gave our 2020 season predictions. If you're going to want to listen to that, you can catch the MASN All Access podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Watch it on the MASN All Access Facebook page. Watch it on the MASN Orioles YouTube channel. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff as well. That just about does it for MASN All Access today. Thanks, of course, to Steve Molesky for joining the show. Thanks to Bobby Blanco, Hannah Broder, Brendan Mortensen, and Ryan Engelmeyer for their help behind the scenes. I'm Paul Mancano. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.